So what exactly would happen if we abolished ICE, as many Democrats, as of tonight, are now calling for us to do? Jessica Vaughan studies this question full-time. She's Director of Policy Studies at the Center for Immigration Studies, and she joins us now. Jessica, very simple question. We're moving toward, the national conversation is moving toward a consensus on the left that we ought to abolish ICE. If we did, what would happen?
Well, the effect is that there would be no rules or limits on immigration. It would be de facto open borders. And that is, I think, what some of the people on the left want. At least they're honest enough to admit it, that they want there to be open borders. Some of them couch it in other terms by saying, no, it needs to be done by other agencies because it's the leadership of ICE, which is complete nonsense. What they're against is immigration enforcement and rules, and they want to delegitimize immigration enforcement. But immigration laws are not some obsolete law in the books that don't deserve to be enforced. Americans want immigration laws enforced because they protect job opportunities for Americans. They protect taxpayers from having to shell out money for people who shouldn't be here, for social services, schools, health care. And they, as you pointed out, keep our communities safe by removing criminal aliens from our country. So it's absurd to say that we should not have this work done. ICE is an important law enforcement agency. What really needs to happen is for ICE to have more resources and the ability to communicate more effectively and cooperate with local police, sheriffs, and other law enforcement agencies so that they can get their legitimate mission done and do it more effectively and efficiently because it benefits our country. It's not fair to legal immigrants not to have immigration laws enforced.
No, and it's not fair to any of us. But now that one party has taken a very clear stand against the idea of borders for a borderless world, at least a borderless United States, what effect does that have on our immigration levels? So the rest of the world has the internet, too. They know that this conversation is going on. Democrats may win this November. Isn't this a draw, an incentive for people to try and come here illegally?
I think it is. I think that we've seen that in other cases when there's been talk of amnesty. We get more illegal immigration because, the people overseas are getting the message that we don't care about enforcing our immigration laws. We see the same effect from sanctuary policies that attract people. And the smugglers certainly use it as a marketing gimmick for them to get more customers. To continue this gives all illegal immigrants a sense of entitlement as well. When people come here illegally, they know they're here illegally, and they expect some consequences. So if they get arrested, they expect to be deported. But when they hear all this talk about abolishing ICE, it creates this sense of victimization for them, and that theirs is a noble cause to be here illegally. And it just undermines the rule of law
of course it does.
And our immigration system. And, Americans don't.
And it guarantees you're getting a worse class of immigrant. You really want to import people who started out by breaking our laws? It's like exactly what you don't want. It's nutty.
Right.
Jessica, thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Well, in Washington yesterday, anti-ICE protesters swarmed the city and made their vision for America pretty explicit. Listen to what they said. F your borders, F your walls, we will make your system fall. That's what they're saying. Chris Hahn is a radio host and former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, and he joins us tonight. Chris, are you comfortable with the direction your party is moving?
I think that there's been a reaction to the gleeful cruelty being administered at the border by this administration, putting toddlers in courtrooms and separating them from their parents. And I think you're seeing a bit of that reaction.
You stole that line from Jon Stewart, if I can say. But hold on. Okay, no, I know it's all Trump's fault.
Absolutely.
But hold on. Just as a Democrat, let's just take Trump out. No, I'm being sincere. So last week, you didn't hear any Democrats, mainstream Democrats, say abolish the law enforcement agency in charge of enforcing our immigration law. Now you're seeing a whole bunch of elected Democrats calling for abolishing ICE. Are you comfortable with that position?
Look, I think it's rhetoric. It's very similar to the rhetoric people like Ted Cruz used in 2016 when they said, let's abolish the IRS. Well, somebody's got to collect the taxes. Somebody's going to have to enforce our border laws in this country. So if you abolish ICE, that's just a rhetorical thing being used by protesters right now. Obviously, there are issues that many people in this country have.
It's not just, no, but that's not fair. No, that's last week you're talking about. When protesters, when the lunatics, all the trustafarians, all the angry rich kids were calling for abolishing ICE. Now you have the presumptive Congress. It's true. But now you have mainstream people. You've got a whole list of elected Democrats, including the star of your party, calling for this.
Well, there were 16.
Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from New York, is calling for this.
There were 16
why is that not reckless and crazy?
Candidates, and many Republican presidential candidates call for the abolishment of the IRS. I mean, that's rhetoric. It's political rhetoric. It happens all the time when you have a hot issue.
Okay,
and when there is a branch of the government that's not performing well, as ICE is not. They're not performing well.
Okay, but not performing well and eliminating something are very different. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
If you're a Democrat and you care about the environment, right? You care deeply about the environment.
Right.
And by the way, I'm with you on that. How is it good for the environment of this country to import millions of poor people from the third world? Is that good for the environment of America, honestly?
Immigration
please answer my question, because it's a real question.
Immigration has always been good for this country. Always been good. Obviously, there's some
Is there any downside at all?
Point to of individuals. No, there isn't.
Is there any downside to letting? So what would be the limit then? If there's no downside, if it's all good, and you know you're lying when you say that because nothing is all good in this life. But let's just, for the sake of argument, pretend you're right. What's the limit then? If it's all good, then why wouldn't you? Then why wouldn't you let in 100 million new people from the third world? They want to come here. Should we do that?
I think when you have a system that's not recognizing the crisis that we're seeing in Central America, where people are coming here seeking asylum, like my family did during World War II, or prior to World War II.
Oh, spare me.
We need to recognize.
No, spare me. It's not World War II. It's 70 years old. Hold on.
Can you just answer a single question straightforwardly? In their beds in Central America, and people are fleeing with the shirt on their back for a better life for their kids.
But I'm an American. Okay, that's great. I'm an American citizen. I feel for anybody who wants to come here. I feel for the suffering of the world, and I mean that sincerely. But I also feel for my children and yours and American citizens. And I think the rest of us have a right to know what the limit is. So if immigration is all good and there's no downside, and you know that's untrue, but we'll just pretend that it is true, honestly, what's the limit? How many can we absorb and still have a functioning, affluent country? Have you thought about that at all?
Well, Tucker,
or is this a totally faith-based proposition?
Tucker, that is why we need a broad-based immigration reform where Democrats and Republicans and the president
you have no idea,
come to the table, but they need to come to the table and they need to solve this problem right now. They should
But hold on, wait, I'm confused, Chris. Wait, stop. Wait, why is it a problem? You just told me there's no real downside, and then 30 seconds later you describe immigration as a problem.
No. The problem is the
enforcing
system
our
that
laws
is not
is the problem.
recognizing what's drawing people here, including jobs and jobs being filled, and ICE should be enforcing, as your first guest said, enforcing the laws in the book so people are not hiring and exploiting this labor.
You're totally against E-Verify. There's not, I don't think I've spoken to a liberal who's honest on this question in the last year, and it's really telling.
I think I have been incredibly honest, and that's the way.
Then tell me the number. How many do we absorb and still remain America? Any idea?
Congress needs to set the number. Congress needs to set the number reasonably.
How about none? Chris, great to see you.